Named NBA general manager says Kawhi Leonard lacks the qualities of a true team leader. According to a Bleacher Report article, the GM telling Rick Bucher, quote, Kawhi is great getting his, but he doesn't elevate anyone. He doesn't rally his team. Another unnamed executive countered, saying he does have leadership qualities. It depends on how you define leader. Ryan, Kawhi, he's a great player, but would you call him a great leader?
He's absolutely a great leader. The last time I checked, great leader and leader are synonymous with best player on a championship team. LeBron James, Steph Curry, Dwayne Wade, Kevin Durant, Tim Duncan. There is absolutely no way that you mouth and say that Kawhi Leonard isn't a good leader. Oh, I get it. He's not loud. He's not vocal in the locker room. Take a moment and think about this. Before Game 3 and 4 of the NBA Finals, Nick Nurse is in the locker room and says, and this is quoted, hey, guys, we're just trying to get one game. Let's see if we can get one game. Now, our guy Kawhi Leonard steps up and says, you know what? Forget that one game. We're going to get both of them. Then he goes out to average 33 points, 9 rebounds, and 4 assists and dethrones the champs. I know we can talk about injuries. We can put this there and that there, whatever it is. But just because you don't see this out loud doesn't mean he's not a leader. And I'll leave you with this. I've talked to guys. I know guys in that locker room. They say Kawhi is not just a leader in action, but a extremely vocal leader. So, Dom, just because you don't hear it, you don't see it, don't mean he's not a leader now.
That's fair. The thing that I struggle with is how we define leader. It changes to suit our argument whether a guy is good or bad. You started out by saying that he was a Finals MVP and they won a championship, therefore that makes him a leader. First of all, that's not true. And I think we all could agree that just because you are the best player on a winning team doesn't mean that you are a good leader. And how you define...
Not winning championship, bro. Championship.
That doesn't mean that you're a good leader. Like, you can win a championship without the best player being a good leader. I've been on several teams where, like in Baltimore, I was on the Ravens team, and everyone thought Ray Lewis was the leader of that team. And it actually felt like, in many times, Ed Reed, who's going in the Hall of Fame soon, was the guy who we went to for leadership. Like, leadership is not always, I agree, leadership is not always about being out front and making a lot of noise. So I'm not saying that Kawhi is a bad leader, but I'm just saying that you guys both responded like it was the most absurd thing to say in the world. Like Greg Popovich.
And can we quote you real quick?
Greg Popovich, the man himself, said that he wasn't a leader when he was in San Antonio.
Right.
So Kawhi,
a little salty, maybe.
That possibly had something to do with it. But Greg Popovich is not a guy that anyone sees as
Popovich is a great leader, and Popovich, but great leaders are sometimes wrong. And Popovich was wrong on Kawhi, and the way he handled it was wrong.
True.
Let me talk about Kawhi for a second in leadership. If you are a leader through example in terms of your work ethic, both sides of the floor, like if you have a kind of leader, he may not be quiet, they're both from the Spurs, doesn't mean that they both share same leadership qualities, or a Bill Russell-style leader, or a more kind of vocal leader, but he may not be that. But if you're the kind of guy who your teammates, when the chips are down, look back at you and go, he's on our team, that means we're going to win. If you're the kind of guy who shows up every day for practice and goes about your business the right way, if you're the kind of guy who says, who's the best offensive player on the other team, not only am I going to carry our offense efficiently, but I want to guard one-on-one the monster on the other team and show everybody how it's done. That's leadership. And that's great leadership. Not every leader has the same.
No, I agree wholeheartedly, but it feels to me like, and I'm not saying that he's not a great leader. I'm not in a locker room with him. It's hard for us, anyone who's not in a locker room, who's not there every day, it's hard for us to really evaluate how someone leads because we always just fall back on, like, was he yelling on the court? And that's nonsense. That doesn't mean you're a leader or you're not a leader. So it's hard for us to say. I'm just saying, let's not brush over this because it seems like on his championship teams, we always point out he's won on 2 different teams, which is incredible. He's won championship and MVP. It is incredible. No one at this table is going to look at me and say that he was a leader on the Spurs team. All the things that you said,
well, he's a baby.
The Spurs would argue that he didn't show up every day wanting to work.
He was a baby.
Right. I mean, late in his career, before he left, they said that he didn't want to show up to work.
Well, they were bad mouthing
issues with them. So I'm just
he was hurt. They were bad mouthing. He was protecting the rest of his career.
Okay, if you have respect for a leader on your team, if he goes out and he looks you in the eye and says,
the leader of the Spurs.
This is exactly.
Of
so
the Spurs.
We're pointing to that And so the only incident that you have of him being a leader is this last season.
Wait,
he got dropped into.
Wait. Do you mean the only incident
only
I have
NBA
of him?
championship?
Wait. Is to be dropped? Is to be dropped on a team,
leadership,
and carry the load offensively and defensively,
That's being a
and
great
then have
player.
one of the great playoffs of all time,
That's being a great
and win a
player.
championship.
That's being a great player. Again, I'm not arguing that he's a bad leader because I'm not in the locker room, but I'm saying your evidence.
But always coming into work, ready to do your job day in and day out does mark a good leader.
Your evidence of him being a good leader is that he played really well on the court. That is not the same thing as being a leader. He shut down people defensively and he scored a lot of points. Does not make you a good leader. Would you argue that the way that Kobe Bryant led those teams, would you argue that it was good leadership? He was always
Kobe had to become a good leader.
Sometimes no.
Kobe had to learn
exactly.
it.
Yeah.
So let me check this. Check this out, though. I was privileged to cover the NBA last year, played my time in the NBA, 10+ years. I played on some extremely talented squads with guys that were supposed to be leaders. They weren't leaders. Well, guess what? Even from the public eye, if you took a good look at the body language of the role players and the guys on the court or even the other stars, they did lack of leadership. I played on squads like in Boston with great leaderships. Garnett, Pierce, Ray Allen, whatever beefs we may have had or things that happened on the court, you saw good leadership. And guess where it showed? On the court. Those little things are hard to hide, bro. If you look at that Toronto squad last year, if you look at Toronto, they were fine-tuned, they played together, and they believed in each other. And it was bigger than Nick Nurse, Dom.
And then he led Paul George to L.A., by the way.
Golly, that's not leadership.
That's leadership. But the thing is that you guys are pointing to this, had Kevin Durant stayed healthy, had all these things changed, and the Warriors likely would have won.
Sure.
You guys would not be talking about him in the same way. That's the only point I'm making.
I would be.
You would still be saying that he's a great leader. What evidence would you point to? The only evidence you're pointing to of him being a great leader is what happened last year,
when you say great player,
which we're also saying was contingent upon some other variables.
When you say great player, Kawhi particularly, the way he plays and what he's about indicates a level of leadership by example. I'll explain what I mean. Kevin Durant tried to reverse engineer, as it were, his greatness because he knew he's one of the greatest players ever, one of the best players ever, but no championship.
Absolutely.
So he joined a situation where you couldn't not win the championship, right? That doesn't really prove anything. Kawhi Leonard could have gone to the Lakers, right, and joined AD and LeBron, and no one could have possibly beaten that team. What he preferred was proving, in fact, that you just give me a fighting chance and I can win. With Toronto last year, and this is through every series, there was no other great player on his team, but he faced squads with multiple special kinds of players, like Philadelphia, with an unstoppable MVP like Giannis. And it was always, no matter what the circumstances were, you could see that his teammates felt, we have Kawhi, we're going to be okay. And he never lost that attitude. That's leadership.
So that's not leadership. That's playing really well and people having faith in you, which is like, you can't drop in.
No, it's leading by example.
Again. So it's you guys waited for him to win the championship, which he deserved, and he was great. And you're trying to say that has something to do with leadership when it doesn't. We don't know that it does or doesn't is the only point I'm making. He was a lights-out player in the playoffs. That's what gave them confidence. It didn't give him confidence because he was...
Check this out, though. Look at the situation of Kawhi Leonard. He didn't want to go to Toronto. It was a poor situation. He had every reason to pout, complain, shoot shots back at San Antonio. He just went to work quietly. Look at that locker room. It would be easily for Kyle Lowry, a good friend of mine, a guy who keeps it as real as can be, that would have said, man, I'm off this Kawhi guy. He did everything he could to put his arm around Kawhi, believe in what he was doing. That's real. That's real.
That's beautiful. I'm happy for Kawhi. He did the right thing. That's not leadership.
Why do you think Kyle Lowry was
doing the right thing? It's not leadership.
Why do you think Kyle Lowry, for the first time in the playoffs, was good under pressure in the finals?
I don't know.
That
Man,
was
I don't
that
know.
was that
Which is
was
what you guys are.
That was but introduce the variables. All kinds of variables have changed in Kyle Lowry's career, and then Kawhi showed up and it changed. Why is that?
I would argue that you could ask Kyle Lowry, and he's not going to say that all of a sudden I played better because Kawhi led me to. Like,
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what he
nonsense.
says. You can see the evidence. The evidence is, and by the way, anyone, it's not just, look, you guys played on the highest level, but anyone who's ever been in any activity where you have someone on your side that you really believe in and that leads by example, and you feel like you're going to be okay because that person's with you.
Finally, you're saying you agree that he was not a leader all the way through his time with the Spurs.
He was a leader on the Spurs, yes, eventually.
You're basing your assessment, but he didn't win any championships there because that's what you're saying why he's a great leader in Toronto.
He did win a championship on the Spurs.
Not while he was the
No, but he was the Finals
leader.
MVP before he was even the leader.
The point is, you're basing this, and again, I'm not saying that he's a bad leader. I'm saying that it's not out of the question.
You can't say he's not a great leader and he won a championship.
You're basing this off of one season where he dropped into a situation.
No, hold on. Look at this.
He was dropped into a bad situation. I agree. He made the best of that bad situation.
Kobe Bryant had to learn leadership. LeBron James had to learn leadership under Dwayne Wade and Pat Riley in Miami.
Jordan did.
This is something these guys had to learn. Jordan developed it. Everybody just not
much like your hunch.
it.
Your hunch earlier about Chris Paul not still being elite, which is just a hunch. Like you can't prove that.
I can prove it. We got a lot of evidence of Chris Paul being elite.
Not anymore. Not anymore. What we're being asked right now. What we're being asked right now is even if you distill the argument and I say that Kawhi is trending that way. The question is he there yet or no? I say based on this last season, plus what he did in the offseason, plus the prior experiences and the trajectory of his career, Kawhi Leonard has emerged as a leader.
That's a perfect argument to bring up. Chris Paul has been elite for most of his career.
You know,
except for last year when he
things that we may not know about
90% of it.
Kawhi's track record, given his ability to elevate players around him, I think it's safe to say he has to be a leader in at least some sense of the word. But as for right now, he is headed to the Clippers. They have the second worst all-time winning percentage of NBA teams.
Kawhi for president.
All right, everybody, coming up.